Welcome to AI on the Brain. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Elaine Ham, the Executive Director of the Alliance for Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare, or the AAIH. I'm thrilled to take you on this journey into the fascinating intersection of artificial intelligence and brain health. This podcast is brought to you by the AAIH, where we're passionate about exploring how AI is revolutionizing the way we understand, diagnose, and treat diseases. Through this series, we'll dive into how AI is transforming brain health, highlighting groundbreaking research, innovative technologies, and the real-world impact of AI on patients and caregivers. This is part of a new initiative by the AAIH focused on the potential of AI to improve brain health, and I'm so excited to share these insights with you. Let's uncover the future of brain health together.
Welcome to the very first episode of AI on the Brain. I'm your host, Mustaq Kazi. I lead the AIH. I'm the chairperson of Alliance for AI in Healthcare. And I also work at Roche. I'm the head of strategy for informatics. Shalini?
Thank you, Kazi. Thanks, everyone. I'm Shalini Trefzer, and I work at Microsoft. This is my 5th year, and I'm a data and AI lead for the Swiss Public Sector Health. Essentially, what that means is I'm examining everything from how to bring the data together to how to drive insight from it, and how to prepare it for artificial intelligence for hospitals, for health insurers. And in the past, I also did this role for major pharmaceutical companies. And I am volunteering my time for the Alliance for AI in Healthcare, and I'm collaborating directly with Kazi. We are looking exactly at this, AI on the brain. What does that mean? And how can we really enable life-changing outcomes for patients? Thank you so much.
Yeah, and as we are looking at 2025, we wanted to actually take you all through a journey of intersection of AI with brain health. And this is a topic that, we are all very passionate about. And, how would AI actually revolutionize the patient journey from, diagnosis to treatment of disease to actually access to medication and then also like an ongoing monitoring. So this podcast is part of a new AIH project, which is focused on use of AI to transform healthcare.
Absolutely, Kazi. And we've really given a lot of thought to how do we inaugurate this expert series. And I think that for our inaugural episode, we really couldn't have asked for a more inspiring guest. We have Indu Navar today. She's the founder and CEO of everythingals.org. Indu's work is truly revolutionizing ALS research by leveraging the power of technology, AI, and very importantly, community collaboration. She has a deeply personal journey in this field, and her background is as an engineer, innovator, a serial entrepreneur, and now she's a PhD researcher in neurology. All of this makes her really qualified, uniquely qualified to tackle one of the most challenging neurodegenerative diseases of our time and how to bring us faster to a cure using technology. Welcome to our show, Indu.
Thank you so much for having me, Shalini and Kazi. I'm honored to be here talking to you about, brain health and AI and how we're going to change the outcome.
Absolutely. I was listening to a recent Freakonomics MD episode, and it was titled very provocatively. I shared some of this with you. Who pays for multi-million-dollar cures? And it started off actually with a former patient of sickle cell anemia and his experience. He comes from Nigeria, lives in the United States now, where in the US, it's considered a rare disease. And that's not the case in Nigeria. A single mutation in a single gene. It's kind of like I'm boiling down this wonderful podcast into what resonated with me. And it really struck me that, wow, this is what it comes down to, a single mutation in a single gene. And this gentleman was lucky enough to get into a clinical trial for DNA editing. And it took 18 months of transplant preparation and blood draws for DNA collection. He talked about how some of these blood draws used to last 8 hours. So this was a significant toll on his body to even get to the treatment. And finally, the treatment was a 30-second infusion. So it really made me ask, what can we do to speed up this process? Even trial to cure is such a long journey. Diagnosis to trial is maybe an even longer journey. And Indu, you have firsthand experience of this. You have suffered a deeply personal loss that started you off on this mission to help find a cure for ALS. Would you care to share some of that with our audience?
Yes. Thank you so much, Shalini. So well put together. And, I mean, what you took from the podcast is exactly what happened to me in reality. That is, we come from the tech world, we're tech entrepreneur. And as a personal journey, my husband and I, we've innovated in this industry. We've started companies. My husband was early at Amazon. He invented Amazon Cloud. And I've started companies and revolutionized the way manufacturing is done. I was on the founding team of what today is WebMD. And us, having had successful careers, still in our 40s, having to walk through this neurodegenerative disease, maybe neurodegenerative disease, went through, the halls of Stanford, Mayo, Harvard, doesn't matter, Johns Hopkins. It was the same issue. It takes way too long to get diagnosed, and the process that's used is archaic. What we did 70 years ago, let's visually see that you are losing function. That is, you're losing 2 upper motor neuron and 2 lower motor neuron visually, and only then we will tell you you have the disease. That's like stage 4 equivalent of cancer. And then, on the other hand, when we got diagnosed after 2 years, the trials, they said, wait, you have to be within 18 months of your first symptoms. So you're really running out of time. You've already been, 2 years. So that means you're not even eligible for trials. We were like flabbergasted. So the right hand doesn't know the left hand is doing. And how are we going to ever come up with the cure if we are actually not collaborating? So, what you said was very true, that it took months to get there. And the trial is really to get into the trial even. We were not even eligible for a lot of the trials. We had no idea that these timelines, that people don't talk about these timelines. And think about it, we got a fatal disease verdict, and then you're asked to climb the mountain to even think about you may have 1% of chance of survival. So it's a terrible system. It's a terrible medical system that we have today for neurodegenerative disease.
Yeah, indeed. And thank you for sharing, Indu. You have really taken this and decided to do something about it. How did that decision come about?
Having had experience being an entrepreneur and having seen industry being transformed in my lifetime, being part of it really helped me to say, this is possible, right? It's possible to us to actually change something. We don't accept the status quo. And when we went through this journey, we would talk about it every day, Peter and I. If we knew about this, what would we do? And this is one of those things where it's not written up. It's not something that you can learn unless you've gone through this journey into this dark cave. It's like I felt like I was going through this dark cave, and you say, hey, can we get some electricity? They'll give you, wood and matches, and then go, what's your problem? Why are you, surprised? So I said, nobody understands this until you've gone through the full journey. And unfortunately, I did lose the love of my life in 2019. And, I really did not want to have our suffering, our information, what we have accumulated, just say, oh, well, I said, this is an opportunity for us to take this forward and change the status quo. So hence the company, everything ALS was born because of our personal journey and also the knowledge we accumulated and the network we created. And what I realized was how, we're smart people, we're entrepreneurs, we've done things, but when you're a patient, you are in an island. You're really not part of the research. You're not part of the whole, discovery of treatment. But what do we spend most money on? You look at a clinical trial, 40% of our cost goes towards connecting with the patients, educating the patients, recruiting the patients. That math did not work for me because I said, this is because, like I said, the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand. One stakeholder map that is most motivated to get treatment are the patients. and we are putting a big wall against, in front of them and saying, well, it's hard to get to them, right? So my goal was to change that. My goal was to say, let's create a citizen-driven research platform. So that is, we're a B2C. We go directly to the patients. We see when they got diagnosed, who diagnosed them, and then we bring them in, and then we do research. So the scale that we were able to do, Shalini and Kazi, is that you get 25 to 50 people over 1 to 2 years. We were able to get 1,000 people in 1 to 2 years, which actually also geographic diversity and ethnic diversity that matched the US map. So we naturally, right, we had Pacific Islander, Hispanic, Black Americans, I mean, you name it, even in Asians, we were able to look at Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, Filipinos, Indians. Like, it really matched very much the US population. So people are there, they want to get involved. So we need to create a platform for involving people.
So, Indu, like on that point, maybe can you describe a little bit more of the platform and also the technology innovation, but then in particular the AI, the role that data and AI play in this whole innovation?
Yeah. So what we have done is, I always say we're going to find the truth in the data lakes, not just in wet labs, right? I mean, trying to get all the data. We've known about, for example, ALS almost 100 years now. There's still very limited data on what is the progression, what happens to people, because people stop going to see the physicians when it gets very difficult. And 70% of Americans live 100 miles or above 100 miles from a neurology center. So it's not accessible for people. And it takes, 4, 5, 6 months to even get an appointment, right? So when it's so difficult, people just stop going. So as they degrade. So our understanding of the disease as people progress is very limited because, it's all hearsay, it's here and there. But what we do is we do remote monitoring. We put sensors, we get time series data, we get very much almost a real-time data set from the cloud for what people are doing, their speech, breathing, movements, different movements, walking, and we're going to be doing, we even worked with Microsoft to look at Bing search engine data to how people have typed and used mouse for ALS patients. And we found that we could have figured out the changes 5 years or many years before. So there are a lot of degradation that's happening when we use the AI. This was, we used just, random forest classification to really see between controls and people with ALS. And what we do is we take that data and we're able to look at through AI different models what are the changes that's happening so we can actually see before it happens, because we have a compensatory mechanism. So you might not see it, but it's happening. So instead of, us saying, let's wait till it happens, we can actually predict that it is going to happen and take the appropriate action. And also for drug companies to actually say, this will actually change in terms of if somebody is taking the drug and it's really having an impact. Maybe we can say, if you have the drug for the next 12 months, this is the impact you're going to see in a positive way, because I do believe that some of the drug trials and brain is too short. 6 months is too short to actually see the difference. But AI will really help us in predicting those changes over time.
Like to work upon in the field and that I'm facing to work upon in the field is data which is fragmented, AI which is fragmented. A lot of thinking around agents, but there's a fantastic LinkedIn post that I can share later, which was written by one of my colleagues about how to think agentic, not agent. And I think that in a nutshell, it's all about saying, how can I bring data together to drive this AI such that it's not fragmented, right? So the concept of sharing is really important. And I think that coming from a patient association, you have direct experience with this. What are some of the challenges as well as some of the opportunities you've seen when it comes to sharing data? And because you start already with the patient, you've already addressed some of the consent issues. What other parts of that battle need to be fought in your experience?
I think we need to change the attitude of the data. what is data and where does it belong and to whom does that it belong? I think what we decided was when I looked at the whole, there are fragmented data set. And by the time I actually work with them to get the data set and figure out what's in it, it wasn't worth it. I figured I'll go directly to the patients, work with them. And that way I have inline data. For example, speech, as people were progressing, they were dropping off. So what we decided was because we have inline analysis that's been done, we actually went back to the patients and said, can you please continue to give the data for next 5 months because we want to study the degradation. So what we do is we don't look at, let's collect the data and see what's in the data. Especially when it comes to longitudinal data set, you need to take the attitude of, I want to collect the data to solve X problem. So what is the data I need? And sometimes you're going to figure out as you're doing the work. So that means we need to have a very agile framework to go back to the patients. We need to go back to the source of the data and have this agile methodology where we are figuring it out, going back and changing. Sometimes we have to change the protocol. Sometimes we have to change just the way we are collecting the data. For example, we used to have Bluetooth issue in the phone. People would put it on the counter and walk, and we were getting some problems with the Bluetooth. So we gave them a little pocket, like little thing that they can actually put their phone in and walk, right? So there are things that we need to correct, as simple as that to very complicated, like I said, asking some of the people to say, can you continue to do? So I think inline analysis is very, very important. Taking the attitude of, I'm going to see what's in the data afterwards is a wrong approach, because we're not going to come to an answer by saying what's in the data, because it's fragmented. People don't know. So that's one. And second is, we believe that currency is the time. It's not the money. Just because somebody pays the money doesn't mean that the data belongs to them. The time the patients give us when they are going through this disease is the highest currency we can actually honor. And we need to have the attitude of, that is the biggest currency. Somebody's giving their time in the middle of going through this disease. That's like, can't even equate to any amount of green notes, right? So we always say, it's the currency, the highest currency is actually our patients, who are our customers. They're our stakeholders. They're our stockholders. So we report to them and we give the data back to them. We give the data back to them so that they can actually use that for their care. And people take that to their physicians. They actually use it to feed 11 Labs AI to get their artificial speech. I mean, there is a lot of things that patients do with the data that we've collected on research.
I think you have done a great job in terms of identifying the data sets, bringing that together. What role does the collaborators play or the industry play in this? So healthcare companies, technology companies, even academia. I feel like you have done a very impressive job in terms of bringing them together. So if you can describe more of that.
Absolutely. And, I come from the world of having built what we call supply chain companies. I built a supply chain software as a service platform where today, 20 years later, NVIDIA was one of my big customers. They were young at that point, and they're putting through trillions of dollars of product through this software, right? I mean, because we actually saw that we want to bring in these products with 6 months lead time, with high margin efficiency. So that means we were collaborating with 50, 60, 70 different participants from all over the world to really bring this product to market. That's what happens when high tech, right? Having built that and coming to healthcare, I said, oh my God, how come we're not even talking to each other? It's like saying your package does not come and you're calling up some vendor saying, where is my package? No, you want Prime. You want 2 days. Something shows up and you want return to go back. You'll slap a label and goes back, right? That's the world we live in. And in healthcare, we don't collaborate. It's a very much a manual process. So what we built was that ecosystem. And of course, for that, we need to have value alignment. What is the value for one person needs to be value for the other person, right? So for example, patients, what's the value alignment for them? They get the data back for the time they've given us. And academic centers like Harvard Medical, MIT, Temple University, Emory, Minnesota. We actually working with them, but our close collaborators are Harvard Medical, Temple, and MIT. And what we do is we co-publish with them. So we collect the data. We actually have our data science team and our software engineering team, and we collaborate on a weekly basis. We spend 2 to 3 hours a week with them to actually figure out what we are finding, so neurologists are very, very involved in this. So the alignment there is fast throughput, publications, and findings. And what does industry have? We have a lot of, industry partners like J&J, Bristol Myers, AbbVie, Eli Lilly, et cetera. If you go to alsroundtable.com, we put everybody together. We have once a quarter get together. And industry is that they see a fast throughput and access. They get access to the insights that we have, access to how to improve their clinical trials. And we actually put these algorithms that we're coming up with in the clinical trials. So it's really, the latency is really removed, where we're all working together and we can actually go from collecting the first data to creating an algorithm and getting it into the trial in less than 2 years. This was our first one. I know the next one will be faster. So that's kind of what we have done, Kazi, is like value alignment and making sure that this is the only way, because you're not going to get thousands of people in less than months to get that level of data and that level of insight. And so we can actually make a difference for patients today who are living today.
Thank you very much, Indu. And certainly your work transcends ALS. You've started there. However, it also touches upon the broader field of neurodegenerative diseases. So we really look forward to seeing how your learnings, as well as your achievements using technology for ALS, can also help speed up the timeline between initial symptoms to a diagnosis, to getting into a clinical trial, and then hopefully finding a cure. In other diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and with personal experience in some of those, I can also say that this is something which would really make a difference to the quality of life of many of our seniors, our elders, our young people, our tech leaders, because the diseases don't discriminate who suffers from them.
The youngest we have with ALS is 8-year-old. So we do have a lot of people in their teenagers, 20s. So just recently I was at Allen Brain Institute and they said 1 in 3 people are going to be diagnosed with a brain disease. I thought it was 1 in 6, but even then it's 1 to 2 billion people. So this problem is not going to go away by itself. I think AI is going to be the answer, because we are about 40 years behind oncology, but the problem is catching up faster. I really believe that, bringing in AI, machine learning is the way for us to catch up and make a dent at coming up with a cure. And we recently announced that, everything ALS, along with Compass UOL and Amazon, we're going to be training 2,000 AI engineers to cure ALS. So we are, on the march here to make sure that we have enough resources and enough of the bandwidth available from AI community to actually get through to the truth.
And so with that, Indu, I want to thank you so much for the amazing work you do, but also sharing your incredible journey here. And I know it's very impactful for all of us, as individuals and as patients. If today's discussion inspired you, we encourage you to all go to everythingals.org, where you can find all the work that Indu and her team does, and also like how do you get involved. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to AI on the Brain, so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming conversations about groundbreaking intersection of AI with brain health. We have some exciting guests in the next year lined up for you, so you don't want to miss that.
Thank you, Kazi. Thank you, Indu. And indeed, AI on the Brain, everybody. See you next time as we continue exploring the intersection of AI and brain health. Thanks for listening.